Okay, let's unpack this. Have you ever wished there was, I don't know, a genuine shortcut to sounding truly natural in English? Especially those everyday phrases that just, well, they just flow. Not just, memorizing words, but actually having them roll off your tongue like you've said them 1,000 times without even thinking. Well, our deep dive today is all about unlocking exactly that. Daily English fluency, making those really essential sentences feel incredibly natural and intuitive. So we've got this fascinating resource today. It's excerpts from a video called Daily English Sentences, Morning Routine Shadowing. And it makes pretty compelling promise, actually, that in just 8 minutes, you can start to master 30 sentences native speakers use every single day. The claim is, by the end, these sentences won't just be things you understand. They'll feel like part of your own speech. Really authentic. And the key method they highlight for this transformation, it's called shadowing.
And what's truly fascinating here, I think, is how the source kind of challenges the usual ways we think about language learning. It really emphasizes this shadowing idea, right? A method that's designed for more natural, intuitive learning. It moves beyond that analytical focus on grammar rules, at least up front, which immediately brings up a big question. What is it about this approach that makes it so effective for fluency? Especially with such a, rapid promise. It definitely points towards learning that involves, active repetition, mimicking real speech pattern, immersion.
Precisely. So our mission for this deep dive then is to explore what shadowing really involves. What is it? And let's unpack the specific types of sentences from this common daily routine the source uses, and really discover why this particular approach, it almost feels physical, why it could be your fastest way to confidently speak English every day. We'll get into the mechanics, the cognitive side, and how it focuses on the practical language you actually need. Okay, so let's jump right into this core concept then, shadowing. The video's host, Emma, she lays it out very clearly. She says, "You're not just listening, you're shadowing me." Then she explains the kind of magic behind it. Listen to me, then repeat exactly what I say. Copy my rhythm, my tone, my speed. And this is key. Don't think about grammar. Just let your mouth learn the natural flow of English. It's quite a powerful instruction, isn't it? It's not about analysis, it's about mimicry, intuitive mimicry.
Oh, it's incredibly powerful because it taps into something really fundamental about how we learn language, especially our first language. When you're shadowing, you're not just picking up vocabulary or sentence structure in isolation. Not at all. You're internalizing the prosody of English, the rhythm, the stress, the intonation, all those musical bits. And that's often what makes someone sound truly natural rather than just grammatically okay. You're essentially training your vocal muscles, your English-speaking muscles, as the source calls them, training them to make authentic sounds and patterns without having to consciously think about grammar rules while you're talking.
You mentioned don't think about grammar. Now, for someone who spent years, carefully studying grammar rules, that might feel, almost wrong, a bit scary even. How do you sort of reconcile that initial discomfort? And, does grammar come back into it later when you're shadowing?
That's a brilliant question. And yes, it's a common hurdle for learners. Absolutely. The instruction, don't think about grammar, especially right at the start. It's about intentionally sidestepping the analytical part of your brain for a moment to engage a different way of learning, one that's focused on muscle memory and auditory processing. Think about learning to ride a bike. You don't start by reading a physics textbook on balance, right?
You just get on and try not to fall off.
Exactly. You feel it. Shadowing is a bit like that. The aim is to build an intuitive feel for the language's rhythm, its flow. Now, grammar, obviously, it's crucial. It's the foundation. But when you shadow, you're actually absorbing correct grammatical structures implicitly through hearing and repeating them correctly, not explicitly through rules first. Then later, as that intuitive sense gets stronger, your analytical understanding of grammar gets reinforced by what you can already feel and say naturally. It clicks together.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, like a dancer learning a routine. They don't just study the theory of movement. They watch, they copy, they feel the rhythm in their body. It's physical. And the source explicitly says, if you've never done shadowing before, you're about to discover the fastest way to speak English fluently. It even acknowledges it might feel awkward. It says, don't worry if you can't keep up at first. That's totally normal. Just do your best and you'll improve with each sentence. It really frames it as practice, like a workout, not just a mental puzzle.
Exactly. And that claim about it being the fastest way, it isn't about magically skipping the learning process. It's about accelerating a specific type of learning, the ability to produce language spontaneously, intuitively. Traditional methods. Great for building understanding of grammar, vocab, absolutely essential. But actual fluency, that feeling of words just rolling off your tongue naturally, that comes from practice, that pulls all those pieces together into smooth spoken output. Shadowing directly targets that gap. It forces you in a good way to produce language with the right timing, the right flow, building that muscle memory for speech.
And what better way to build that muscle memory than with phrases you'd actually use every single day? Makes sense. The video focuses on a morning routine. It explains, today is part 1 of my complete daily routine. These are 30 sentences I actually use every day. Now, that's brilliant because it's immediately useful language, right? Grounded in something almost everyone does. It's not abstract theory, it's practical.
Oh, that choice of content is absolutely key. Focusing on a morning routine gives you this really contextualized, high-frequency set of sentences. These aren't rare or complicated phrases. They're the kind of building blocks of daily chat. So when you master these sentences through shadowing, you're not just learning isolated words, you're internalizing a whole chunk of daily life in English. And because it's immediately applicable, you can start using them straight away, which reinforces the learning, builds confidence. It makes that big, sometimes scary goal of fluency feel much more concrete and achievable, step by step.
Okay, so let's look at this morning routine through that shadowing lens. The video starts right at the beginning of the day, waking up, getting ready. It has phrases like, I wake up at 7 every morning, I stretch my arms and yawn, and first I drink a glass of cold water. What's so valuable about shadowing these early, simple routine phrases, beyond just knowing the words, I mean?
Well, these seemingly simple sentences are actually perfect vehicles for internalizing that prosody we talked about, the music of the language. Shadowing them helps you really lock in the natural stress patterns, like emphasizing 7 o'clock, I wake up at 7 o'clock, or the natural rhythm and pause in, I stretch my arms and yawn. You're not just saying the words, you're copying the melody. Plus, these often contain high-frequency collocations, words that just naturally go together, like drink a glass of water. Learning them as whole chunks through shadowing makes them feel much smoother than if you tried to piece them together word by word each time.
That makes a lot of sense. So for someone practicing, how would focusing on that rhythm and intonation, how would that feel different from just trying to pronounce each word perfectly?
It's really about shifting your focus. Instead of zeroing in on each individual sound, like I-W-A-K-E.U, which can sound robotic, you're trying to capture the overall tune, the up and down. I wake up at 7 every morning. See the difference? You're consciously trying to feel where the emphasis falls, where the pitch changes. It's less about dissection, more about absorption, like listening to music. And that's what makes your speech sound connected and natural, not all choppy.
Okay, moving on a bit in the routine. It goes into hygiene, getting ready. Phrases like, I brush my teeth for exactly 2 minutes.
Hey!
I wash my face with warm water and soap, and then I make my bed before leaving the bedroom. What specific aspects of fluency do these kinds of phrases help lock in when you shadow them?
Oh, these are fantastic for internalizing very common fixed phrases and the natural sequence of actions. Take, I brush my teeth. That's a standard collocation. A native speaker wouldn't usually say, I clean my teeth in that context. It sounds a bit off. Shadowing drills in the most natural phrasing. And also those little details, like for exactly 2 minutes or with warm water and soap. These are places where learners often hesitate or might use the wrong preposition. Shadowing helps smooth over that hesitation. It makes those specifics part of your automatic speech, which boosts both your accuracy and your speed.
Yeah, it's those small, precise details that often give away a non-native speaker, right? So what are some common mistakes learners might make with these habitual phrases that shadowing can help fix or even prevent?
Right. Well, often learners might stumble over prepositions, like you said, or maybe verb choices in these daily routines. They might say, wash my face by soap instead of the natural with syrup, or maybe forget the article like brush teeth instead of brush my teeth. Small things, but noticeable. Shadowing basically bombards you in a good way with the correct complete phrase over and over as a single unit. So it reinforces the right grammar, the right words implicitly. It sort of bypasses the need to stop, think, remember the rule. It trains your mouth to just say it right automatically.
Okay, and as the morning routine moves along, the video captures that transition towards leaving the house. Sentences like, I make scrambled eggs and toast for breakfast. I eat breakfast while reading the news on my phone, and I leave my house at 8:30 sharp. There's quite a bit packed in there, connecting actions, times, those native touches. What can we learn from shadowing these more complex multi-part phrases?
These are great because they show how shadowing helps you absorb more complex sentence structures and those natural connectors. Take I eat breakfast while reading the news. That while connecting two things happening at once using the ing form, that's a really common pattern in English. Shadowing lets you internalize that structure without needing to consciously parse the grammar rule of while plus gerund. You just hear it and say it correctly. And then you get those lovely idiomatic touches like 8.3, sharp.
Right, sharp.
Exactly. It's a perfect example of a tiny word adding significant nuance. It makes you sound more authentic, emphasizing that precise time. Shadowing helps you pick those up naturally.
The video also includes this wonderful kind of meta example. On the bus, I listen to English podcasts, which feels very appropriate for us. How does shadowing these action sentences, especially ones about the commute, help with overall fluency and just practical talking?
That sentence is a nice touch, isn't it? It kind of highlights the whole cycle of language learning, using the language itself to learn more. But for commuting sentences generally, like, I walk to the bus stop near my building, or I wait for the number 12 bus. Shadowing those helps build fluency in describing sequences of actions, places you go. You learn how to naturally link verbs, prepositions, specific nouns, the number 12 bus, to create a clear story of your day, which is, essential for pretty much any real-world conversation. It's about equipping you to talk about your own life confidently and accurately.
Yeah, and the video makes a point to pause and check in. It says, perfect. Can you feel how these sentences are starting to flow? Keep going. First. And later, it encourages interaction. If you're shadowing with me right now, drop a heart in the comments.
That positive reinforcement, that interactive bit, it seems really important. What's the psychological boost from that kind of thing in learning? Oh, that direct address and encouragement. Incredibly powerful, really is. Language learning, especially when you're pushing yourself, trying new things like shadowing, it can feel a bit isolating sometimes. So these elements, they create a sense of community, maybe accountability, even if it's just virtual. And positive reinforcement, it validates your effort. It helps push past that initial feeling of awkwardness or difficulty. It reinforces the idea that you are making progress, that it's working. It's a good reminder that language learning isn't just intellectual. It's about building new habits, new pathways for speaking, and that consistent effort pays off.
So if someone listening is thinking, okay, I want to try this, or maybe they've tried shadowing but want to make it work better, what are some key practical tips? What should they keep in mind?
Absolutely. Good question. First, definitely start small, short segments, maybe just 30 seconds, maybe a minute until you get the hang of it. Don't aim for perfection straight away. Focus first on getting the rhythm, the intonation, the general flow, then worry about matching every single word. Second, pick material that's interesting to you and maybe just slightly above your current level. You want a little challenge, but not so hard you feel totally lost.
Right, the comprehensible input idea.
Exactly. Third, listen actively. Don't just hear the words. Listen for the stress, the pauses, the feeling of the sentence. Try to capture that musicality we talked about. And finally, maybe most importantly, consistency. Really, even just 5 or 10 minutes every day is much, much better than trying to do an hour once a week. The goal is to make it a habit, just like those morning routine sentences themselves.
It's incredibly helpful. Yeah, this deep dive, it's really highlighted the power of a focused technique, like shadowing. Using these practical, relatable situations, like a morning routine, seems like such a smart way to build confidence and fluency. It feels organic, and it's directly useful. You're building this foundation of language you can actually use immediately. Making those, say, 30 daily sentences truly feel like yours. It's not just about knowing the words, is it? It's about feeling the rhythm, the tone, the speed of English naturally. Like your mouth is learning a new skill, a dance.
And if we step back and look at the bigger picture here, what the source highlights is that learning doesn't have to be this huge, overwhelming academic thing. By consistently working with specific, everyday content like these sentences, you're not just learning English vocabulary and grammar, you're actually building a powerful habit. A habit of observation, imitation, and repetition. And that applies to mastering any skill, really. It teaches you how to break down something complex into smaller, manageable, imitable parts, focusing on the doing, the output, not just passively taking information in. It's like, well, the difference between reading sheet music and actually playing the piano. The active practice is what truly builds the skill.
That's such a brilliant point. Yeah, the Daily English Sentences video showed us the impact of mastering these specific routine actions through repetition, through mimicry. And it really made us wonder, what daily routine could you break down in shadow if you wanted to master something new? Whether that's, I don't know, cooking a complex dish or learning some coding or even practicing public speaking. How could you apply this same kind of focused, repetitive, almost physical practice to make any complex skill start to feel natural and effortless. Definitely something to think about. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive today. We hope you feel a little more equipped to tackle those daily English sentences and maybe, just maybe, a few other skills too.